Next speaker is somebody who was once an intern at the IEA, actually, Matthew Feeney. Matthew now works across the Atlantic at the CATO Institute, and he's going to talk to us about a topic which is, again, very topical, very much in the news, which is the new technology of drones and their implications for both how we do things like shopping, but also questions like privacy and the like. So, over to you, Matthew.
All right. Can everyone hear me? I was mic'd up upstairs. I don't know if are we good? Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Steve. Thank you all for coming. It's really nice to be back with the IEA. When I was an intern at the IEA, there was no Think conference, so it's great to see the think tank go from strength to strength. I'm also very pleased to be at this conference in particular because I'm not an economist and yet somehow managed to get myself invited anyway. I spend most of my time at the CATO Institute worrying about the intersection of new technologies and civil liberties. So I spend a lot of time worrying about body cameras, facial recognition, but also drones. But in the last few, more recently, I've been thinking about drones and the effect they have on the economy and our commerce. And so in the short time I have with you today, I want to talk about how we can protect privacy while also ensuring that we have cool delivery drones. And these drones are coming. According to the Federal Aviation Administration in the States, there will be hundreds of thousands, if not more than 1 million, small commercial drones flying in the United States. And I'm sure there are similar growth projections on this side of the Atlantic. And when we're thinking about commercial drones, think of drones that are filming sporting events or inspecting buildings. But you probably are also thinking of delivery drones. Some of you might have heard that Amazon is very interested in this kind of technology, as is Facebook is getting involved in commercial drones too. And indeed, it was actually in this country at the end of last year that Amazon completed its first drone delivery. And this was a small drone delivering a small package. It was a small step, but an important one, I think. But patents that Amazon has secured reveal that they might be thinking a little bit bigger. So here's a picture from a patent that Amazon has. The idea here is you have giant airships that will house drones and packages, and the drones will fly down to the city and deliver your packages. Here's a cut-through of what they think one of these drone blimps or airships might look like. They also have patented a kind of drone hive where you will go to pick up your delivery or drones can fly through. I don't know who does the illustrations for these, but this is the largest man or the smallest lorry that I've seen in a while. Here's a cut-through of what one of these hives might look like. Amazon also are getting involved in the law enforcement business. They have a patent for a shoulder-mounted small drone that police will have for traffic stops and things like that. One final one here. Walmart has a patent for a drone that will come to your property and will survey your property and make a 3D model of it and then issue you purchase recommendations based on the details of your own property. I do want to stress that not all patents come into reality, but I nonetheless think that this illustrates the kind of things that people are thinking about. And in fact, only yesterday, Facebook conducted its second successful test of its solar-paneled Aquila drone. I'm not sure if the solar panel part is working yet, but Facebook is also in this area. And I think all of these is kind of cool, but there are also significant privacy concerns here. And when I'm thinking about privacy, I like the definition put forward by Alan Weston in his 1960s classic, Privacy and Freedom. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy categorized his definition as privacy being the ability to determine for ourselves when, how, and to what extent information about us is communicated to others. And my former colleague, Jim Harper, I think correctly pointed out that there are two ways that we mostly protect privacy, and the first is physics. We all have information that we want to keep private, such as membership cards, driver's licenses, details like that. And we put these, and because we do not have X-ray vision, we put these into concealing materials like wallets and pockets, bags, things like that. When we're talking about homes, we erect curtains, fences, hedges. And when we're outside and we're communicating with our voices, in order to make sure that only the intended recipients of the conversation are party to it, we lower our voices. So we're protecting photons and sound waves. But that's not enough. So you have a bag. What stops me getting into your bag?
I will stop you.
You will, sorry?
I will stop you.
You will stop me. I've given a version of the talk a few times, and it's amazing how often violence is the answer to this question that I will stop you. Yeah, so you have an opaque bag. I can't see what's in it. But what one argument is that it's also the law stops me. We have laws. This might be news to you, but we have laws against battery and assault, and you can't do that. And when we're talking, though, about drones, I think it's important to consider private property. If you've locked your door and you've drawn the curtains, that's a good first step to protect the information inside your home. But it's also important that people think if they transgress or they break down the door that there are legal ramifications for that behavior. But private property becomes a difficult thing, I suppose, to talk about when we're talking about airspace rights, the property in the air above your home. So this is a cartoon from the United States with a father gleefully gloating over an Amazon drone he's shot down with his gun, saying, "I blasted that freedom-killing NSA drone right out of the sky." And his son is upset, saying that was actually the Amazon drone delivering my Xbox. So this is an interesting and quite funny cartoon, but this kind of issue came into reality a few years ago when a gun owner in Kentucky blew his neighbor's drone out of the sky with his shotgun. The allegation was that the neighbor was intruding on his property, so he picked up his shotgun and shot the drone. I like the subhead here is, if you cross that sidewalk onto my property, there's going to be another shooting. This is clearly a man that means business. And the owner of the drone sued and took this to court. And in fact, the judge ruled in favor of the shooter, saying that he had the right to shoot down his neighbor's drone. And I think when this man in Kentucky picked up his shotgun, he was probably thinking about his right to exclude others from his property. So the right to exclude is a central part of, is a central right we associate with property. This was discussed by William Blackstone, the great English legal commentator, and Supreme Court Justice Rehnquist from the United States called the right to exclude a fundamental element of the property right. Things become a little more difficult when we're talking about the air, of course. Are there any Latin students in the room that want to give this a try? That's okay. My father teaches Roman literature, so he was trying to teach me how to pronounce this, so apologies for any of you. This is the old common law legal doctrine called the AdColon Doctrine, and it's pretty good. I mean, it roughly translates to whoever's is the soil, it is theirs all the way to heaven and all the way to hell. Pretty good basic legal doctrine, as this very not-to-scale illustration shows. The basic idea is, if you own a patch of property, you also own all of the air above it, and you also own everything below it. That's pretty good, and you can see why this would be really good at resolving conflicts in the Middle Ages. We run into problems when new technology meets this legal doctrine head-on. And most of us understand, I think, that if millions of people had the right to exclude indefinitely up to the heavens, air travel would be impossible, satellites would be impossible, and space travel, and if you take it really seriously, would be impossible. And in the 1940s, the US Supreme Court said that the AdColon Doctrine has no place in the modern world. And this is fine. Most of us think, well, you know, we live in an age where there are airplanes, but they're flying very, very high, thousands of feet in the air. Passengers, if they do choose to look out the window, cannot see intimate details of people's lives, so we put up with it. Drones, I think, though, are some kind of category that's different. This is a picture that could easily have been taken with a drone. From up here, you could look into someone's windows. You could see how many people are over for dinner, if there's a pool, when the person swims regularly. You could, if you really wanted to, peek in to see what someone was reading. And that's despite the fact that this homeowner has clearly tried to use physics to protect their privacy. You can see hedges and fences, for example. So the question I want to really get to in the time I have left is, I want my drone pizza and my property rights. What's the best way that I can have both of these things? I want a very innovative entrepreneurial environment where people can experiment with drones, but I want to protect our privacy. So a good way to illustrate this is a debate that took place in the Wall Street Journal. This was a debate between two law professors over whether you should be allowed to prevent drones from flying over your property. And the two participants were Ryan Kalo, who's an assistant professor of law at the University of Washington, and A. Michael Frumkin from University of Miami School of Law. And Frumkin says you should be able to exclude drones from the airspace above your property. And he said, and I think he's right, that commercial drones should have to stick to the roads. We already have infrastructure. We're used to seeing weird vehicles that we don't own on public roads. And in fact, we have maps. We have ways to navigate that are very applicable here. In the United States, there's already a company called AirMap that is designed for drone operators so that they can see where they can and cannot fly. And there's a similar company, I believe, called No Fly Drone here in the United Kingdom that provides a similar service. So with modern technology and mapping, I think it is possible for a vendor like Amazon, for example, to be able to ensure that its delivery drones stick to above public highways, roads. More interestingly, though, perhaps, is I think there should be a trade in these property rights. This is something that Frumkin raised in the Wall Street Journal. He wrote, delivery firms convinced their drones need shortcuts can buy the right. Micropayments and mapping technology make putting together flight paths feasible. So if you own a massive property and it would really be in Amazon's interest for them to be able to fly over your house, they should be able to approach you and say, hey, we'll pay you for access to this airspace. I think this could really lead to some interesting outcomes, especially because we all actually value our privacy differently. If you are a basement dweller or you never go outside, you might be far more happy to have an Amazon drone fly over your home. I'm aware that I'm a little short of time here, but what I do want to finish with is I don't know where this line is. There clearly does need to be a line at which the right to exclude ends. There must be a ceiling. Just like airplanes, there has to be a height at which drones can fly freely without the permission of homeowners below. Greg McNeil at Pepperdine University has proposed 350 feet. Troy Rule at Arizona State has proposed 500 feet. I think arguments can be made for all kinds of ceilings, but I want to reiterate here that we should be wary when considering these regulations and laws that law enforcement, police departments are going to increasingly be using drones. It's not just Amazon. And I think that this right to exclude, or the ceiling, should apply to Amazon as well as police departments. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have. If you want to send sharply worded criticisms, you can get in contact via email or Twitter. But I'd love to hear any of your thoughts. Thank you. Cool.